Trapped 400 years in the future, with humankind and all life as we know it on the brink of annihilation, it's up to you, a lone echo android, to save it all.
Good hunting, Stalker.
The original Lone Echo is one of my favorite VR games, guys. It's masterfully crafted and puts you at the center of an amazing story. Lone Echo 2 is a direct sequel that begins almost immediately after the events of its predecessor and is an adventure game in space. Being in space, you get to experience one of the coolest gameplay features the game has to offer, and that's playing in zero gravity. Now, if you're like me, this may have you squirming a bit at the thought of getting motion sick, but they do an amazing job with the design and make it feel so real that I never once felt the slightest bit ill. And this 6-degree freedom of movement is the foundation of how you get around the entire game's world, and it is absolutely fun as hell. You get a jet booster that allows you to quickly move forward from one place to another, reverse boosters to slow down, and hand thrusters to make slow micro adjustments to your direction, or if you need to make small movements. You can also push off walls or even grab onto other objects that are flying through space to catch their momentum. I have never, in any game, felt like I was actually floating in space or moving in a zero-G environment like this, guys. It is so damn cool and has got to be the closest thing to experiencing what it would actually be like to move around in space. The game is heavily story and narrative driven as well, which I'll cover in detail in just a bit, but it's worth noting here because you'll be spending a lot of time in conversations and interacting with other characters in the game. And there's no cutscenes at all, you're just there, in it, 100% part of the experience the entire time. There is a little bit of shooting and action, but it's not a shooter. And there are intense sequences where you'll be under the clock to save your life or somebody else's. But it's not a survival game. For the most part, it's an adventure game that plays out at a slower pace and leans heavily on its narrative and the eerie vibe of its world and the activities that you get to do to keep you engaged, and it does all of those things incredibly well. You play an android who's equipped with some badass gadgets to help you get through the game, and the space station you're on has been overrun by an alien biomass that's been weaponized and feeds off electrical energy, which puts you in a really vulnerable position being a robot. There are a few humans aboard the station as well, but they're also extremely vulnerable to the biomass, and since you can easily survive and maneuver outside the station's confines, you get sent out on almost all the missions. The tools you get to take with you can all be upgraded as you progress through the game by either finding information or new tech that's relative to a specific tool that can then be applied to yours to upgrade them. You get a torch to open hatches, a scanner to retrieve data from terminals or other AI in the world, or even from the spacesuits of dead crewmates you find. You also get a pulse gun that temporarily freezes the biomass, allowing you to get close to it, an object manipulator that allows you to interact with things from a distance, and a laser that allows you to shoot and either stun or kill some of the biomass's more evolved entities. And these evolved entities are called ticks, which float around and will aggro towards nearby energy sources that get into proximity of them. All the tools and things you get to engage with using them, and using the weapons against the enemies. It's all awesome and just made interacting with things in the world super satisfying. The game's also filled with a ton of light puzzle solving where you'll need to figure out how to get into areas by unlocking doors or getting past clusters of biomass. They're all really easy and simple, but they also felt like real problems to solve, which made exploring and discovering new areas and progressing through its levels really rewarding. There are a couple minor gameplay issues I want to cover real quick as well, and the first of which is tied to it being an Oculus exclusive title. If you're playing on a Valve Index like myself using Revive, or any other VR system for that matter, be prepared to suffer from some of the worst menu interactivity that I've ever experienced. It's a nightmare to say the least, specifically if you want to change a graphical or audio or accessibility setting in the menus. Getting around the main menu and loading in and out of a game is fine. But holy hell, if you want to change your subtitle settings or turn down your shadows, it is so damn finicky and just won't register you squeezing your controller to change the setting. I was so aggravated, I wanted to curl up into a little ball and just pop out of existence, you guys. It is really unfortunate they don't make it user-friendly for other system users. I also experienced some performance issues that seem to be particle effects related, and it occurred pretty often, so some optimization definitely needs to happen here. Now, with how well the first game played, I do expect they'll address this, but until then, do expect to turn some settings down and possibly still run into some lag, even if you're running the game on a beast rig like myself. Outside of those trouble spots, Lone Echo 2 has some of the best VR gameplay I've ever experienced, guys. The feeling of actually being in space, and with how engaging and interactive its world is, tie all that to its strong narrative, and you get some amazing gameplay that, at this point, is the best I've ever experienced in VR. I'm giving gameplay 5 out of 5 stars. Graphics are next, and it's a super gorgeous game for a number of reasons. Taking place on a space station that orbits Saturn and sits right on the threshold of its rings, you get to explore and survive a sci-fi world of immense scale and beauty, both inside its claustrophobic space stations and outside as you soar through space. And seeing your shadow cast down upon an orbiting rock face as you fly past, or the view as you sink through the planet's rings with your next objective off in the distance, is quite the feeling, guys. I also gotta give props to the character models, which are straight up the best I've seen in VR. They're even better than most desktop games, to be honest. Their design, movements, and facial expressions look so damn real and are so believable. It's like being in a game's cutscene as you're playing it, which made the whole experience that much more compelling. And there are some long conversation sequences as well, but with how often you get to engage with other characters and with how great they looked, it made those conversations and sequences feel natural and super fun to be part of. The only visual complaint I have is there can be some pretty bad texture pop in that does get annoying, so some optimization definitely needs to happen there, but outside of that, the game is really, really good looking. I'm giving graphics 4 out of 5 stars. Audio's up next, and the soundtrack is great, guys. It's really reserved. I think there's only 4 tracks they used at different points in the game, but what is there are some awesome soundscape tunes that really set the tone for the game's most climactic moments. The sound effects are excellent too. There's a killer blend of futuristic tech mixed with mechanical hardware in the game that you constantly interact with, and it all sounded so cool together and made things feel advanced, but also real and tangible in an analog and mechanized kind of way. The major highlight for me in this category, though, is the voice acting, which is 100% top notch. Every actor delivers an amazing performance that gave each character life and authentic personality. And with such a huge variety of situations that occur in the game, their acting made every line and interaction carry the right tone and emotion, which made the whole experience so much more gripping. A perfect score for a perfect category. Audio gets a 5 out of 5. Story's up next, and this is where the game really shines, yo. And the developers Ready at Dawn had set the bar high too, because the first Lone Echo told an amazing story. And I'm happy to report Lone Echo 2 builds further and expands farther on that in some incredible ways. You played Jack, an echo android who's trapped on a space station with your human companion and Captain Olivia Rhodes, who are working together to try and survive this biomass infestation that's crippled most of your station and killed most of your crew. And on the surface, its story is a survival adventure where you solve problems together, uncover the mysteries of the biomass, and even time travel to successfully do so. The real story, however, is about a beautiful relationship, and the depth at which the game goes to build on that makes for one of the most powerful and wonderful stories to be a part of, guys. It's full of love and courage and draws from some of human beings' most admirable traits to tell its story. Honestly, Lone Echo 2 has several subplots and characters that all contribute to it being a meaningful and enjoyable experience, but the relationship between you and Olivia is so damn meaningful and profound. It is an emotionally driven roller coaster that swells and settles throughout the entire game, all while slowly building to this beautiful climax that had me in tears, guys. Not just a little bit either. I was full on weeping at how moving it was. Lone Echo 2's story is a masterpiece, yo. It really touched my heart, and I'm so grateful to have been part of it. I'm giving story 5 out of 5 stars. Settings are up, and let's start with the locomotion options first. And like I mentioned, most of the movement in game is done by you interacting with objects in the space or by using your boosters and thrusters. So all you get here are some turning options, which there are plenty to choose from. So this was all good. Moving on to video and graphics, and video-wise, you really only get a sharpening option, which was okay. You do get a bunch of settings in the graphics department, however, which was great. So you can tweak however you want or need to here for quality or performance. Audio's up next, and this was perfect. You get a music, sound effects, dialogue, and master dial to tweak and create your preferred mix. And lastly are gameplay options, which are located under accessibility, and these were great. You get colorblind modes to tweak, and you can change your subtitles or select your primary controller here, so everything here was good. Settings were great overall. I'm giving them 5 out of 5 stars. Let's give it a final score, guys, and it takes a special game to deliver such a powerful and emotive experience as Lone Echo 2 did for me. Every aspect of it just played so perfectly together. Its world, game mechanics, character relationships, and story played off each other beautifully and straight up took me to a whole other world where even as an android, I had one of the most moving and visceral human experiences. I'm giving Lone Echo 2 5 out of 5 stars. It is without a doubt a must-buy, guys, and this goes for the first game as well. You'd really be missing out to not experience Lone Echo before jumping into Lone Echo 2. Not only because it's incredible on its own and is in my top 3 best VR games I've ever played, but both games are really just one game split into 2 parts, and they totally build off each other while making you part of its remarkable and unforgettable story. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the review. If you did, please give me a like below, and if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe and bell button to join me for all my future reviews. Check out my Patreon to support, and guys, I can't wait to see you on the next one. GG.